Welcome back. Let's bring in the panel. Political strategist Alex Castellanos, who is working with one of the Trump super PACs. Christian Welker of NBC News, who's covering the Clinton campaign for us. Maria Teresa Kumar, president and CEO of Voto Latino. And Chris Cillizza, political reporter for the Washington Post. Welcome all. Mr. Cillizza, let me start with you. Pence trying to defend Trump on immigration. What'd you think?
Well, he's not going to answer the operative question, which is the one you asked him multiple times. What's he going to do with the undocumented workers? Look, I think what Pence signed on to, he knew what he was getting into, right? There was no question of like, I wonder what it would be like to run with Donald Trump. Yeah. You knew what you were getting. And I think what he has made peace with, what he probably made peace with when he took this is, I'm going to go as far as I comfortably can as a much more mainline politician than Donald Trump in defending Donald Trump. What I'm not going to do, and you heard it on taxes as well, right. What I'm not going to do is put my own personal credibility on the line. I'm going to say, I think Donald Trump has been consistent. These are Donald Trump's views. Did the same thing on the Roger Ailes question. He didn't want to own it. He's not going. Trump owns Ailes, not him. He's not going to own it, and he's also not going to say anything about the undocumented workers. The truth of the matter is, I don't know that Trump knows what he wants to do with them. So I'm not sure even if you ask Trump candidly, he'd be able to give you an answer. Alex,
you're a longtime political strategist. It seemed to me we saw, sometimes it was clumsy, but we saw over about an 8-day period, they were plowing the field, the Trump folks, basically waiting for Trump to change his position. And on Wednesday, the Mexico City day, you thought, well, okay. And the meeting with something is afoot. And then the Wednesday night speech. Missed opportunity?
I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity in the sense that, you know, we all lock our doors at night, not because we hate the people outside, but because we love the people inside. And I think the tone of the speech was not matching the words of the speech. At the same time, there's a little bit of softening and evolution in the position. The tone of it is very hard line. I like what Donald Trump is doing on immigration. It's much more honest than we usually get from politicians. You know, Barack Obama's plan was to, quote, close Guantanamo. He ran opposing health care mandates, right? Oh, that's what he's going to do if elected. We know it doesn't work that way. It's much more honest to say, look, we're going to do a few big things. We're going to build a wall. We're going to get the bad guys out of here. And we're going to work on, iterate. We're going to fix this as we go. I think that's a much more honest approach.
Maria.
I mean, Donald Trump is so disingenuous, and it's not an honest approach when you're saying that you're going to deport 11 million people almost overnight on a sliding scale. And the fact that he went into the belly of the beast of the Arizona law that said it's the show me your papers law. It's the law that basically condones racial profiling that the Supreme Court said you have to gut. The principal problem, I believe, that the Latino voter has with the immigration law is that it's all code word of we don't like the browning of America. When you start talking that you're going to go ahead and repeal the 14th Amendment of birthright citizenship, when you tell an American journalist to go back to Univision, when you tell people to go ahead and speak English, we know that you're talking about us. And when you start talking about the complexity of immigration reform, these are not individuals that live in silos. You are talking, imagine being in the living room. You're watching this Donald Trump speech as you're eating dinner, and you know that the person sitting next to you, your grandmother or your aunt, is undocumented. We're talking about 6.5 million mixed status households. He wants it both ways, but he's been very clear that he considers two different types of Americans, and one, unfortunately, is not the browning of it.
Kristen, what was interesting here was the RNC reaction, and we got stories that the RNC basically said, don't tweet about the speech. Don't do anything. It was sort of the Mike Pence approach.
Yes.
We're not going to say anything.
Well, and a Republican official tells me there was an immediate realization within the RNC and also within the Trump campaign to some extent that the tone was off, as you say, but also the optics were off. The fact that he was delivering this speech throwing out red meat to the base in Arizona after that trip to Mexico, there was a sense, why didn't he deliver this speech at the Brookings Institution, for example? This was supposed to be a serious policy speech, and it turned out
to be let him get fed?
It's indicative of him. I mean, to me, that day is Donald Trump's presidential campaign in microcosm. You keep thinking, well, he's reading off now, people say it's a low bar, but he's reading off a teleprompter. He tonally sounds like he's in the right place. He looks statesmanlike. And then a tweet from the Mexican president saying, I made clear I was going to pay for the wall. Now, all of a sudden, he does this thing where he says, He's going to pay for it. He just doesn't know it yet. I mean, the opposite of diplomacy.
Alex, what if his day had ended at 5 p.m. on Wednesday?
Right.
What if he had flown from Mexico City to LaGuardia and went to bed at 5 p.m.?
I'm 62 years old. I shouldn't do any public events after 5 p.m.
And you don't want a 70-year-old man doing it either?
I don't think you should. But, you know, I think Chris is right. The first half of the day was beautiful. And by the way, Trump is moving up in the polls just a teeny bit, even despite all of this. But the first half of the day, he's standing on the world stage. He looks presidential. The Mexican president doesn't have the strength that he has, can't stand up to Trump.
But I think
overall, a good impression.
Maria, very quickly,
Yeah.
a little criticism from some Latino leaders thinking the Clinton campaign has been a little slow with their Latino voter pitch. No Spanish language advertising in general election states so far. Are they slow? Are they behind?
The fact that Trump is the Republican candidate has actually given the Hillary campaign tons of media in Spanish media. So much so is that we have
The free media trumps everything?
I mean, to really crystallize it, there is a Latino astrologist named Walter Mercado that we've all grown up with listening to in Spanish media. He has gone after anti-Trump. So the fact that she has so much media buy in the Spanish language is good. It's fantastic. But her challenge is actually going to get the Latino millennials, the ones that are English dominant, that may not be turning it on.
Well, with guess what? I'm going to have an interesting millennial conversation with somebody who's not a millennial, but who has a lot of appeal to millennials. That's for sure. We'll be back in a moment.